Wait,
Well,
are we
hello.
live? Wait,
I'm
what?
Tyler.
And I'm Tyler.
What are the
No
chances?
surprise.
And this is Bible Talk with Tyler and Tyler. So good and good to see you today. Tyler, what you been up to?
Um, I I'm not plugged in, so I think I can do this. So this is my bedroom. I'm not plugged
I
in,
don't.
so
I
I
feel
can't
like
make
we're on
my bed
MTV's
in
Cribs
case
right now.
anyone wanted to know. Yeah, yeah, that's for all those kids out there who know what that is. There's some
Not that
stuff
you
that
should
we've
watch
packed.
MTV.
So we've been packing, and by we, let me just say right now, Brittany has been doing most of the packing because I'm at the office doing other stuff. So shout out to Brittany. I know she's not
Ah,
watching.
that was a shout out.
So we've been packing. We move Friday. Anyone can come. Our address is 555. It's
You
Whitesburg
doing
Church.
this?
There, I said
You
it.
doing this?
It's Whitesburg Church, and my name is Daryl Kraft, and I live at the church. You can help me move anytime.
Interesting. Interesting. Well,
What have you been
that's
up to?
exciting. I
Is it?
let's see. I have been with you today. We moved a lot of stuff from one building to the other in the rain. Got to have some nukes with a friend. Got to eat some cashews at my desk. Just living the dream. Just yelled Kakarot at my kids a whole lot because
Living
that's
the
what we do in
dream
my
is
household.
what people say when they're not living the dream.
Not me. I am what you get. If I say living the dream, then you better believe that I'm living the dream. And don't you ever
I'd be
question
like,
it again.
I just imagine like me being given the blessing of going into one of your dreams, and it's just you eating cashews at your desk.
Well, hello, Tyler. How are you?
Yeah, that's it. And I'd be like, bro, what are you doing? You'd be like, what? I'm living the dream.
Well,
Be
as
like,
I am
okay.
having technical difficulties, I'm looking for something that's going to help me with that in my backpack. Tyler, why don't you explain to everybody what we're going to be doing today?
Yeah, sure. So we're going to be talking a little bit about Proverbs today. Kind of the whole book, not um, not super detailed. We're going to have a few proverbs that we think are kind of funny or interesting, a couple serious ones, and then pose a question at the end about how can we live wisely in the time that we live, because I think more than ever Proverbs is applicable to us, um, and we need it to get through our daily lives. So basically Proverbs is a collection of wise sayings from as it breaks down it's from a father to his son. It's an encouragement to pursue wisdom, and that section, the first 9 chapters, basically concludes with the son's invitation to take part in wisdom collected throughout the ages. So it's not just one era's specific wisdom, but it's a few that have been collected over time. So there's 31 chapters. The first 9 are the father to son, and then the next 21 chapters are different proverbs from Solomon and from other authors, all about how to live wisely and how they've kind of learned to live wisely. Um, the whole purpose of the Proverbs is to describe and instill wisdom in God's people on the foundation of a fear of God. It says in Proverbs 1:7 that the beginning of wisdom is the fear of the Lord. And so the Proverbs are deeply concerned in a different way than like Job or Ecclesiastes, which are talking about kind of exceptions to how we live our life. That sometimes, even though we try to live wisely, it doesn't work out the way that we think it does. Proverbs is trying to give you general ideas that should help you live well, not specific laws, but just ideas that you can use throughout your daily life. It's about a pursuit of a lifestyle of following God, and um, not just these cool sayings that are like save your money well and you'll have money, like more money later. Like not nothing to that extreme.
Proverbs
Yeah.
17:11.
Classic Proverbs.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I thought to start off, there are some proverbs that maybe get lost in translation a little bit, and I wanted to hear maybe from Tyler. What were some that you found? What are some that you guys know of? You can post in the chat. Um, there's some good ones out there. I can start with one. One that I found is Proverbs 26. I'm going to spend a lot of time there. Proverbs 26:13 says the sluggard, that's like the lazy person, says there is a lion in the road, there is a lion in the streets. He just shouts. He's like, there's a lion out there. That's it.
That's the-
It's
that's
moderately
the entire-
confusing. That's
Hey,
it. That's the
There's a
whole
lion
thing.
in the road.
There's a lion out there. So I was confused by this, and I'm not gonna lie. I sat and I was like, what am I supposed to do with this? So think about it. If you're a lazy person, what are you going to do? What extent are you going to go to stay in your laziness? So you've been playing video games all day, your parents want you to do something. How do you avoid that? You shout something ridiculous as a reason why you don't go and do the work that you're supposed to do. And the sluggard in Proverbs is mentioned so many times about not wanting to do the work that they're supposed to do. And so this one specifically says there's a lion in the streets. That's why I'm not going to work today. So that's a problem. Holland,
I
did
think
you
that's a
find
good one.
one? That's a pretty
Yeah.
good one.
So, there's a lion in the road, man. A lion in the road. So this one is kind of a little different. I want you to picture you're watching one of your favorite shows back in the day when things weren't streaming, and there are commercials.
VHS.
And yes, VHS. There's little lines going. So a commercial comes on, and it looks like one of those girl commercials where everybody is like, there's wind blowing in the room that's all white, and it's like, oh yeah, like just I can't really do it because I don't have the hair, but it says, "Truthful lips endure forever." I thought that was a interesting one. It just reminded me immediately of a commercial. Now, obviously, it has very important implications that I want to talk about in a little bit. But the second part of that verse is, "But a lying tongue is but for a moment, but truthful lips endure forever." Just sounds like a tagline for a Maybelline commercial or something to me. So,
For
yeah,
those of you that don't know what Maybelline is, they make women's face care products.
maybe it's Tyler. Maybe it's Maybelline. Right.
So
My goal is to make Tyler uncomfortable.
Another one that I found was whoever meddles in a quarrel not his own. Okay, so it starts off really good where you're like, yeah, if you get into something you're not supposed to get in, then what? And then it says, is like one who takes a passing dog by the ears. I don't know if you've ever done that. You just saw this dog and you were like, come here, and you grabbed it by the ear. Now, I would think the implication of that is just like you shouldn't get into a fight that isn't yours because you're gonna get people are gonna fight you. A dog's gonna bite you if you grab it and attack it, even though it's not your own.
And if it happens by that line, then who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah. You got another one?
So the other one that I have is in Proverbs 14. It says, "Where there are no oxen, the manger is clean." Truer words. That's all I got. I'm leaving it at that.
What? Wait, repeat it.
Where there are no oxen, the manger is clean.
That's a pretty good one.
Thanks for coming to Bible Talk tonight, everybody. We hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Finger guns all around.
Pew 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 pew.
Another one I found was the words of a whisperer are like delicious morsels. They go down into the inner parts of the body.
That's bad for you.
Delicious
So-
morsels. Have you ever been like, hey man, feeling a little hungry today. You mind if you just whisper? Just give me a little secret.
If I ever say that to you, I just want you to punch me straight in the face. I do not promote
will
violence to
gladly.
anybody else in the world, but to you,
It's a once in a
punch me the face
lifetime
first.
opportunity.
Once
That's
in
a
a
once in
lifetime
a
opportunity.
lifetime opportunity.
Yeah. So how do we want to transition into I know that you had a Proverbs that you really wanted to dive into today.
Yeah. Did you have any more?
No, those are my
Okay.
my silly ones that I had.
I had a couple more. So even though these are kind of weird, maybe they are obvious in some sense. Where of course a manger's clean if there's no oxen, 'cause you're not in there dirtying it up. Or like the words of a whisperer like delicious morsels. That's just saying if you like gossip, it fills you, and
Oh
so
yeah,
it's
and we're
something to
not
watch
making
out
fun of the
for.
Bible here. I hope that you understand that we're saying there's some things that because the way things are translated into English and we live in a different culture in a different context, these things
Maybe
sound
it comes
silly.
off a little
Like some
bit.
of them just
It
sound
sounds
weird,
silly. Yeah,
but that doesn't mean that they are silly. They have a meaning behind them. We're just like
yeah,
trying to pick out some of the ones where it's like, oh, this is interesting. So
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
So before I do the serious one, the question that I had, like a dog who returns to vomit is a fool who repeats his folly. So if you
Mm,
guys are messing up and you keep messing up, it's like when a dog eats the stuff that he puked. That's gross.
that's right. And who here has
Proverbs.
seen their dog do that before? Because I have. I've actually seen my dog find a poop diaper at my house and have
Oh
at it.
God.
So,
Uh, I definitely had a dog that rolled around in some crap up the street. So
mm,
uh, yeah, I've been
mm,
there. Another one.
that
This is kind of the
stinks.
point of Psalms. It says Proverbs 14:26. In the fear of the Lord, one has strong confidence, and his children will have refuge. So for those of us, what Daisha said, I don't know if you've ever done. That was you making fun of me. Anyways, uh, the fear of the Lord, one has strong confidence, and his children will have refuge. So if you love Jesus and you pursue a life of loving Jesus, no matter what circumstance you're in, you've provided safety, not just for the lives of your family, but for their very souls. So that hits at the deepness and how following God is a way of living and not just kind of something that we say we believe and attend on Sundays. It is an everyday thing that we're trying to pursue. Um, in Psalm 8, it talks about wisdom being personified like a lady, and you're trying to pursue wisdom, and how every wise decision you make is attributed to kind of being in a relationship with Lady Wisdom. So, in the same way we pursue relationships in our lives, we're trying to pursue a relationship with God and know Him and live wisely. So, with that in mind, I wanted to talk about Proverbs 26, verses 4 and 5. Um, Proverbs 26 has some pretty solid life lessons in it. Verses 4 and 5 are a bit confusing because they're actually two contrasting proverbs that come one right after the other. So in verse 4, it says, Answer not a fool according to his folly, lest you be like him yourself. So maybe you guys know this person who's kind of, they just say whatever they want to say. They're never serious. They make poor decisions with their life. Sometimes they'll say something and you're like, I don't know if I should say something to that person because ultimately it's just pointless. They're not going to listen to me and it's not going to go anywhere. So that's don't answer a fool in his folly, lest he make you a fool. Um,
Lest, of course, being another word for unless.
yeah, thank you. The word dictionary for Tyler Holland. And then verse 5 contradicts it, saying, Answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own eyes. So you have this other proverb that is saying, you like if a fool says something, you should answer them so they don't keep thinking that thing, which is crazy because you're like, wait, in verse 4, didn't you just tell me not to answer that fool? So this goes back to the proverbs being more of like guiding sayings, not strict laws to adhere to, because sometimes Tyler can say something to me when I'm being foolish and it actually means something
Are
and
you
it
referring to
actually
yourself
can
in the
help.
third person?
I, I've never had this problem before. Um, I did unintentionally, yes, refer to myself in the third person.
All
That's
right,
where
go
we're gonna
ahead.
land on that. Tyler Holland can tell me that I'm doing something dumb, and I'm like, oh, I was being dumb, and it actually helps me live the way that I'm supposed to live or do the right thing. There are other times where I probably say something dumb, and Tyler Holland goes, "Hmm, I should probably let him be dumb on this so that we can move past it, and we're both not dumb." Now, I'll admit, if one of us is dumb, the other probably joins in. But
Mm,
still,
almost
still,
always.
it's pretty fun. But still, the truth remains. Sometimes you should answer someone who's being foolish, and sometimes you shouldn't. So I wanted to pose this question to you and to our
Hey, before you pose your question, can I do
viewers.
one more thing of clarification?
Yeah.
All right, so hold on to your question because I want to hear it. But it's in this study Bible that I have, it says this. These verses are especially striking in that they appear to contradict each other. To answer a fool according to his folly in verse 5 is to keep replying to his remarks in order to show up their folly. Verse 4 gives the general policy, answer not a fool, because you will end up like him yourself as he responds to your further reply with further folly. The interchange will have no end. Verse 5 gives the exception, answer a fool, because sometimes he or others may think to their own harm that he cannot be answered. So I don't know if that made it more clear to you or not, but it references verse 12 where it says, do you see a man who is wise in his own eyes? There is more hope for a fool than for him. So basically, it's just different ways. You have to take into account the way that people in different states of mind process things and are taking in things. But yeah, go ahead with your question.
No, I think that's really helpful. Yeah, sometimes people are in different parts of life, and they need somebody to help them guide them, and other times maybe not so much. But that kind of relates to the question. I want to talk about for a minute, how can we be wise in relating to others about differing opinions or thoughts about the time that we live in? So specifically, how can we be wise during the pandemic and caring for
Hmm.
others? Because on one side, there's one type of person that believes one thing, and there on the other side, there's another type of person that believes the opposite thing. Now, they could both be Christian, and they disagree with one another. And that's maybe more what I'm trying to talk about here, is that we're all Christians, and we're trying to help each other live wisely in a time where it's kind of hard to decipher because there's so many contradicting ideas and
In the
facts and
comments,
stuff
give
that
us
are
the
being
thing that
thrown
comes
out.
to your mind of what he's talking about, because there's some things that come to my mind that we'll talk about in a minute, and I'm sure
Yeah,
come to his mind as well. But in
sure.
these days that we live in this pandemic that we're in, what are some things that even among Christians people have been getting worked up over? I think an easy thing for people my age is just looking at Facebook walls. I know that most of y'all aren't on Facebook, but maybe through Instagram or the stuff that you're on, you might see just an interpretive dance on TikTok that makes you angry. But you might also
I
have
do.
disagreements with somebody that's also a Christian. So, what are some topics for those of you who are in chat right now that come to your mind with this? I don't know, Tyler.
Yeah, we
We'll
would take
start.
we would take an IDK. I won't lie.
Let's not start with the most obvious one, Tyler. Let's start with a different one. Do you have more than one on your mind?
Uh, I have two, and they're kind of a big deal, I guess.
Let's not start with
Uh,
the Batman one,
okay, okay. I won't start with the Batman one.
but start with the other one.
Don't start with the Cyborg one either.
There was controversy today with the guy that plays Cyborg, but we can talk about that later.
Was it? I
Yeah.
didn't know.
So what is yours?
Uh, I'm gonna. I'm trying to think. I'm actually having a hard time out of the two that I thought of.
All right, we'll just say it. We're talking about masks, okay? So that's one that I'm thinking of. Is that one that you're thinking of?
You said math?
Masks.
Oh, masks. Yeah, masks. Kind of the riots and stuff that have been on the news. That's another
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, there's just more stuff all the time. Um, I
Well,
I
let's
would
focus on those two
say
things first. Then let's do that. So say this. If you're how old are you, Tyler? Like 28?
I just turned 27.
Oh, you youngin. And I just turned 35. So we're
Same
both
here.
you're fired.
Give it that.
We're both we're both adult males, right? And we both
Yeah.
have jobs that we're supposed to do, and those jobs require us to go different places, and they're highly relational, so we're supposed to be hanging out with people. We're supposed to be, I mean, we're pastors. We're supposed to be in the mix, right? At the same
Yeah.
time, as a church, we're trying to figure out what's wise for us to do in the middle of a
Yeah.
pandemic because there's this
Yeah.
virus, this killer virus going around the entire
Mm,
world, which is why it's called a pandemic, and people are taking it varying levels of serious, right? So I think everybody acknowledges, you know what, it's a bad thing. We got to be careful for some people. Some people are like, hey, we got to wear masks at all times. We got to make sure that we don't get around people. We got to make sure that we social distance. And other people are
yeah.
like, whatever. So,
Yeah.
but the thing is, when those two opposites meet each other, even though Ted over here and Billy Bob over here are both Christians, it's like, I think you should wear a mask. I think that's stupid. They can get really fired up at each other, especially on the internet, and just start
Yeah.
going nuts. And this summation of 4 and 5 that I just read says, because you will end up like him yourself as he responds to your reply with further folly, the interchange will have no end. So the
Yeah.
danger is, even if you have good intentions, if you just get worked up because of your own opinions or your own beliefs on something like this, like masks or something, then you got to remember you can't control what somebody else does. So if you're the
Mm,
person that says, hey, I really think that we need to show love by protecting others by wearing a mask and make sure that we're being as safe as we can, it doesn't serve you to go and find everybody who disagrees with you and be like, you're an idiot. Like, I don't like you
mm,
anymore. That doesn't help anybody. And if you're on the opposite side, it doesn't serve you to be like, oh, you're just scared. All you do is live in fear. You're just scared. That doesn't help
mm,
anybody either. What helps
yeah.
is like, okay, I can see where you're coming from. It's not exactly where I'm coming from, but I'm sure that we can find some middle ground that's God honoring, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the big thing that pops out of my mind that kind of goes with where we are as a culture right now, specifically like where we are, and
Yeah.
then in relation to verses 4 and 5.
Sure. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think the two contrasting sides don't want to hear the other. And I'm with you. I think that there is got to be some sort of middle ground where we figure out how to care about another person and their personal convictions and be okay with conforming to that. I don't see a problem with if say that you and your family don't want to wear masks, then I don't have to feel guilty if I don't wear a mask. On the other hand, if your family was all in, then I think that then if I'm coming to your house, I need to know that maybe I should wear a mask to be safe.
Yeah, it's
Because I don't
honoring
know where your
somebody's
family's at. Yeah.
position, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't feel bad saying this because I mean, it's whatever. I do
Yeah.
think we should wear masks when we're out, like at Target or when we go places or
Sure.
something like that,
Yeah.
because in my mind, there could be old people there that are more susceptible, and
Yeah.
if it's just like a, hey, maybe it helps, maybe the people that say it helps are right, and if it
Yeah.
does, worst case scenario is I'm wrong and it doesn't help, but it definitely doesn't hurt. So I'm like,
Sure.
I think that we should,
Yeah.
but if somebody's on the opposite end of that, I'm not going to be like, well, our friendship was cool, but I hate you now. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
cool, you don't believe that, that doesn't stop me from wearing one, and if I feel like I
Sure.
need to separate myself more from you, then I'll walk a couple steps away. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like you can believe something and be fine with believing it, but also be not be mean about it, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like for us in our ministry, there's a lot of people that we get to care for who do have like medical complications. And
Yeah.
so if they do and they need us to wear a mask, like we need to know on the forefront, I'm going to wear a mask until they tell me they don't care.
Yeah.
I definitely have done that recently, hanging out with people where I wore a mask in and they were like, don't worry about it. And I was like, okay, if you
Now
say
full
so.
full disclosure, I've been wearing masks since as long as I can remember because I've always wanted to be a superhero.
It's the
So
day I
I've
was
been
born.
preparing. I've been preparing for 2020 for quite some time.
We all wear
But
an internal mask, do we not?
I had it wrong though. I was covering up this. Oh, that was real spiritual. I was covering up this part, not this part. So yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So what would you say then should be like from the Bible? What is our how does the Bible show us what it means to be wise around other people? What's like the guiding
So
characteristics?
I think specifically in the situation we're talking about right now, it's if somebody is really worked up about it, if somebody,
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know if you're like this, or if you know people like this, but and I think that I can get like this sometimes, but you can tell if somebody's really, really worked up and you're just not going to have a constructive conversation with them. So
Yeah.
there's really not a point in saying, like, seeing that person being so worked up about this and be like, no, I'm going to convince you. I'm going to convince you right now. And like starting an argument, that's that argument that never ends, right? That's that thing that just spirals and both of you end up saying stupid things. So if you see somebody that's so worked up about it, just be like, hey, agree to disagree, and just stop the conversation and do whatever you can to move away from that until that person's not worked up anymore. So I think the wise thing to do in that situation would be to just remove yourself from the situation and not to participate in that conversation anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
Paul talked about differing opinions on things sort of similar in 1 Corinthians chapter 9. I was trying to remember where it was. I think this is right. So in chapter 8, he talks about food being offered to idols, and then Paul kind of talks about him surrendering his own rights. And basically the whole argument was, should people be allowed to eat food that's clean or unclean? That's kind of your overarching thing. Jewish people at the time had strict dietary laws, and even though they became Christians and were released from that, they still kind of felt weird about eating stuff that was different. But Gentiles, they just ate whatever they wanted, so they didn't care about food that was clean or unclean. Specifically, clean or unclean would have been food offered to idols. So a Gentile doesn't care because they would have had in their past many gods, and they could take part in the food given to those idols. But Jewish people, if it was offered to God, it meant something, so they typically didn't eat it. But Paul, saying that he's trying to comply with both sides, says this in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, beginning in verse 19. For though I am free from all, I have made myself a servant to all, that I might win more of them. To the Jews I became as a Jew in order to win Jews. To those who are under the law I became as one under the law, though not being myself under the law, that I might win those under the law. To those outside the law I became as one outside the law, not being outside the law of God, but under the law of Christ, that I might win those outside the law. To the weak I became the weak, that I might win the weak. I have become all things to all people, that by all means I might save some. I do it all for the sake of the gospel, that I may share with them in its blessings. So in the same way, I think when we approach topics like the mask wearing, we need to consider what kind of gospel effect does this have on people? How are we encouraging them or discouraging them from Jesus because of our own actions? I realize wearing a mask or not wearing a mask maybe sounds like it's not as big of an issue, or it may not affect someone's personal standing before Jesus or with another. But the reality is that if someone does have a medical complication and you not wearing a mask like makes it hard for them to be around people because they might get sick or something, and that might be not even just about corona. That could just be if someone has like immune deficiencies or something like that. Like you could still infect I did not intend to use that. You could still affect their life by your actions around them. And so before we make judgments on a type of person or their own beliefs, we need to consider what kind of gospel influence we have in our own life. And like Paul, say that even though you're free from all things, you should desire to serve all people.
That's really good. I think that just remembering that we're supposed to walk in love in everything that we do, that it's all about loving God and loving others. That kind of directly influences the things that we're talking about. Because look, I'm as opinionated as a person can be, pretty much. Like I have strong opinions and strong feelings about things, and sometimes that can come off as not very loving. But it is something that we have to remember. Like, hey, it's fine that God gave us opinions and that we have strong feelings about things, but we have to communicate those feelings in a way that don't put other people down or inhibit our ability to share the gospel with them or to reflect the love of Jesus to them. That's honestly, if I'm being real with you, that's easier for some people and harder for some people, depending on your personality. But it's equally important for everybody. Like you gotta remember, like if you know that your personality is getting in the way of people seeing Jesus, then ask Jesus to help you with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that this is a very specific example of a very eternal truth.
Mm.
It's the Bible was written, from what's the oldest book is Job, and how many thousand years ago was that, Tyler? I'm blanking
Yikes.
right now.
I'm gonna say the best guess is in the 2000 range.
Yeah,
Or
so like
not
it's
2000, 4000. It would be
4,000
2000
ish, yeah.
BC or whatever.
Yeah. So like thousands of years old, right? And
Mm.
these truths are eternal. Like we're sitting here in 2020,
Yeah.
and there's a very, like, we're picking two verses out of Proverbs from thousands of years ago that are
Mm.
extremely applicable to our relationship to Jesus and to others today. So if you get anything out of the day, number one, I hope it's that you understand that you shouldn't just go round and round with somebody who's acting foolish, that you should just, all right, I'm going to back away for a minute and then I'm still going to show them love. But
Yeah.
two, that the Bible's truths are eternal, and that
Mm.
it's important to understand context, as we saw with some of the ones that sound silly to us. But it's very important to understand that just because we live in a different context or a different time than when the Bible was written does not mean that it has lost anything. It has still
Mm.
got all the power behind it that it ever has, because it is eternal, it is living, it is breathing, it is sharper than a two-edged sword. And it's the word of God. So you should get excited about that, and you should know it. And Deuteronomy 6 says that it should be what you think about all the time. You should put it on the door of your house. You should have it in front of your eyes. You should think about it when you wake up, when you go to sleep. Like, it should always be in front of us. So I think we can all do a better job with that. But that will
Mm.
directly impact your ability to um, be God honoring in the situations that we're talking about.
Mm.
So yeah, that's all I got, and it looks like we've just gone over time just a little bit. So Tyler, you have any final words?
Nope.
Well said.
Love
So
God, love people. That's what I've got.
do what?
Love God, love people.
Change the world. All right. So thank you for participating, everybody. I see you, Rebecca. I see Nightwave Man, bro, kid. Maurice, Rebecca, Cutie, the Spotted Eagle, Ray, Evie,
EVQ.
Logan Ox. We see ya.
Love
Thank y'all for
Logan.
being here. Maurice says, some people call people who don't wear masks murderer, which is quite frankly stupid. If someone doesn't want to wear a mask, then they shouldn't have to. I'd just ask you, how many people have you killed, Maurice? Think about that. I'm just joking. That was wrong.
Caleb, you're welcome. Caleb Brock, you're welcome. He just commented.
I don't see his comment. Oh, thank you for doing
Maurice,
this every week.
He's not killed anyone. Good job,
Maurice. None. All right, good job, Maurice. I believe in you, man. All right, well, y'all are awesome. For Tyler, I'm Tyler. As always, be a light and stay classy.
And be classy. Stay classy. Be classy. Classy.